Hey Tubies, this is Bob Hickman. It is so good to be back with you. Well, you guys sent me a lot of wonderful comments on my recent video, which was on alien contact and the Prime Directive. And I asked for you guys to tell me about your experiences with aliens and UFOs. And a lot of you wrote and told me a lot of your experiences. I want to say thank you for sharing those. Anyways, I promised you we'd have another video. I said in the next week we're going to talk about this some more. And, you know, I started realizing there are so many different alien races that I probably need to do separate videos for each one because there's no way I can get it all in. So today I thought we would talk about one of the races that I've been researching. Some of you talked to me about the Arcturians. I'll put that up here, Arcturians. And I was fascinated because this is not a race that I was familiar with. I know about the Greys and the Palladians, the Hathors. But some of you told me about, Bob, do you know about the Arcturians? I said, well, let me look this up. And I started doing research. It's absolutely fascinating because I found out that the famous psychic Edgar Casey, who I have channeled, was in touch with the Arcturians. And I find this absolutely fascinating. You're going to say, well, Bob, who are the Arcturians? Well, they are a race of people that come from the star system known as the Bootes star system. And there's a star in that called Arcturus. In fact, I'll put a star map up here for you. So that's a picture of the star map of Arcturus, and I'm not an astronomer, but those of you who study astronomy, you probably can pinpoint it better than I can. Anyway, supposedly around the star Arcturus there exists a planet known as Arcturus, the planet, and it's a large world. It's blue colored, and it's a lot of water on it. And it's a very etheric world. It's more of like a dimensional, blends between dimensions. And the Arcturians tend to be beings of light. Their bodies are predominantly made of light, and they inhabit what is known as the fifth dimension. Now, what's interesting about the Arcturians, we have to kind of understand this, is that when we talk about alien beings, our concept of what is reality has to expand a little bit. For example, when we talked about the Hathors, and I'll put the link below if you want to go back and see that, I was saying that the Hathors also exist in another dimension that is parallel. Well, the Arcturians also are a similar race. Their bodies are light, and they live in the star system. Now, what's interesting is their ships, they travel in spaceships, but their spaceships are ships of light, and they can travel interdimensionally. And so this adds a whole nother level of reality that we have to deal with. But anyways, you're saying, well, what do they look like? Who are they? Well, they stand about 3 to 4 feet tall, and they have blue skin, light blue to bluish green. Some say they're deeper greens. So blue-green skin. And what's interesting is the Arcturians are very intellectual, so they have very large heads. And because they operate mostly with their mind, their physical anatomy has evolved in a kind of a different way. It's more etheric, and instead of having 5 digits on their hands, they have 3, because they use their mind more than their physical body. And in fact, from what I understand, they control their starships through the mind as well. Now, what I find interesting about this has got me thinking about is, you guys may remember I did a video last year on biomorphic UFOs. And I've looked at a lot of videos. In fact, you want to look those up, biomorphic UFOs. And if you study the biomorphic UFO phenomena, I think what we're seeing there are starships that are predominantly composed of light. And they are controlled by beings who manipulate the structure of light. That's how they change their shape. Now, I can't prove that, but that's a theory that I hold. I'd be interested to hear what you guys think about it. So what we're seeing as biomorphic UFOs, I think, could be very similar to what the Arcturians are trying to tell us when they talk about their ships that are light and that move between dimensions. Anyway, so the Arcturians, in fact, let me put a picture up here as you can see what they look like. So as you can see, the Arcturians have beautiful, and have a bluish green skin, and from what I've heard is they're very approachable. People who have received messages from them said they're very gentle and very kind. They are very concerned about the Earth right now because of our tendency towards war and violence. And I've heard that they've held off making more direct contact until humanity starts to lessen their ways of violence. It's very interesting because there is what they call an intergalactic federation of planets. I've been finding out there are groups of people that are channeling these aliens, and there seems to be a big kind of conglomeration of different races that are kind of holding back and watching the Earth, hoping that we evolve. And I tell you, with all the violence we have in the world, it makes me wonder, if we're ever going to get contact. But, they are contacting, but it's more of a limited basis. Anyways, so the Arcturians basically have said that they are open to communication with humans for those who are open, that open their heart. So similar to the Hathors, you can contact them through opening your heart. So you might want to do some research on the heart chakra, but that's an energy center right in this area. Visualize it, feel it, and open it, and then you speak to the Arcturians, and you can call them to you. So as I said, they operate on the 5th dimension, and that means they're more etheric. The 4th dimension is the Earth's etheric realm, where we have like ghosts and spirit realm. And then the 5th dimension is a higher vibration of that, and the vibrations go all the way up. But they operate at the 5th dimension, whereas we're the 3rd. But from what the Arcturians say, the dimensions really aren't so far apart, and communication is possible and has occurred and actually is currently occurring. So I find this all very fascinating. I want to say thank you to you who have brought over this information about the Arcturians. I encourage you guys to do some more research as well. But anyway, share with me below. Have you had any encounters with the Arcturians? Are you familiar with them? Have you read about them? Maybe you've met somebody who channels them. I've met psychics who are now claiming to channel the Arcturians. This is fascinating. I'm going to research this a little further, but I just want to bring it to you today and just kind of touch in on it. Because I do think that, as we go in the next year to 2 years, there is going to be a lot more, contact from the other worlds. And I think we all need to be open to that. Because the reality is that the reality that we know on the Earth is changing. And I think the change can be a good change, but it's going to take those of us who are open to the light to help facilitate that change. So all of us here, particularly at Spirit Channel, I think most of us here, all of you guys, I would say, are pretty advanced souls. And so we can start by doing our meditation, finding that inner peace, and sending out those signals that we are open to these communications. As I said, I don't think we have to fear the Arcturians. They seem to be very advanced, very spiritually minded society. It's interesting, I also read about their culture is that they do not have a monetary system. They work from a system of exchanges, so it's like a barter system, and they don't have the concepts of greed. So there's no wars, for example, wars for oil or wars to control a territory. They view their planet as one unity, and they say, interestingly, I read one of the Arcturian channelings said that one of their concerns is that humanity on the Earth views everything segmented because we want to draw boundaries and fight over lines. And they said, really, that's all an illusion, that's a creation. And that if we would consider ourselves to be more as unified as a human race, not as nationalities, we would advance spiritually. So I think that's a very, very fascinating concept. And the Arcturians seem to operate from that principle. Anyways, guys, well, listen, I could talk all day, but I just want to share those thoughts with you. Listen, tell me in the box below if you've met the Arcturians, encountered them, know about them, any of your thoughts. I'd love to hear it. Anyways, thanks for being here. Listen, keep it here. Tomorrow we've got Ouija board seance for Halloween and Samhain. So you be back here. We'll see you then. Blessings.